Chapter 13. As Rod races to the garbage truck. God, I love the smell of burnt arachnids in the evening. Elena laughs maniacally as Poppy finishes torching the last arachnid mound. Blowing a large bubble, the hunter looks at her watch. 15 minutes have passed since she last spoke to Rod. He is across the bridge, pinned down in a building, and time is of the essence. She looks back at the 3-foot automaton, still engulfing the dune with its flamethrower. The hunter pops a bubble from her gum and whistles at the robot. The humanoid computer ceases fire and looks over to her. Elena throws the sniper rifle over her shoulder while twisting her hand in a counterclockwise motion high in the air. "Pack it in! Rod needs us!" Poppy acknowledges, spitting out 2 quick beeps and a long boop. The little automaton unleashes one last fireball at the demonic mound for good measure before heading back to the armored van. Elena jumps into the driver's seat while Poppy scampers under the van, climbing in through the trap door. The oval-eyed robot sits down at the miniature command center and starts typing. Poppy knows exactly what Elena is going to ask and begins to search for Rod's position through the gauntlet. The young hunter starts the engine, then looks at Poppy through the rearview mirror. "Ready?" Poppy looks over with a thumbs up, signaling that he is ready to go. "Time to finish this shit." Elena slides her goggles over her glasses and shifts the van into gear. A quick flick of a knob on the center console, and Back in Black by AC/DC blasts out of the speakers. Both Elena and Poppy bob their heads to the rhythm of the drums as she hits the gas. The armored beast squeals its massive wheels before taking off. It roars through the abandoned town on their way to the bridge. About halfway across the suspension bridge, Elena makes out the tipped-over garbage truck. The van plows through any debris in the way. The young hunter is on a mission with zero time for finesse. They roll up to the truck and see Rod's bike silently resting. The two climb out and investigate. "For someone who loves this bike, he sure does leave it unattended a lot." Poppy agrees with a long beep. "Open the back." Elena's companion scurries back inside to open the back hatch. She walks the bike to the back of the van. Poppy lowers the ramp by the time she makes it over. The tinker walks it in, and Poppy retracts the ramp and closes the door. Moving back to the driver's seat, Elena directs Poppy. "You got a lock on our friend?" Poppy sends the coordinates to Elena's console. Several windows come onto the screen, but the monitor is too small for Elena to read. Poppy boops and looks at the young hunter, pointing to the left. She retorts with a thumbs up and drives off with the robot's guided direction. It doesn't take long for the two to follow Rod's trail of death. They find the building Rod and the prisoners took refuge in during the attack. They can't miss it, with all the charred bodies lying in the street. Smoke is still traveling skyward from the hole in the center of the structure. They turn onto the next street, following the undergrowth-plagued road to the back of the building. The remaining hostages are huddled next to a rusted garbage bin. The women hold and comfort the children, while the men keep watch, gripping pieces of rubble as weapons. The men see the armored van rolling to the alley entrance and stand shoulder to shoulder with their weapons at the ready and muscles tightening with fear and anticipation of what will emerge from the vehicle. The van rolls to a stop. The driver's side window descends. The men look on as a young girl with black oval goggles smiles at them, her hair pulled back in a braid. She grins from ear to ear. "What's up, bitches?" Each man gives slight glances to one another, not quite sure how to respond to the question. The driver's side door opens and the female hunter climbs out of the steel beast. She grabs the goggles with both hands, pulling it up to her forehead. The men spot the sidearm on her right hip, followed by a dagger nestled on the outer leg of each boot. A compact-looking assault rifle hangs down her left hip, with the strap firmly sitting on the left shoulder. Elena adjusts her glasses. "I'm looking for Rod Calloway." She positions her right arm into the air. "He's about yay tall, short black hair with a black goatee. probably the cause of all this mayhem, I presume." She glares at the men, awaiting an answer. They remain quiet. The middle defender is the first to lower his weapon. He looks at the others until they lower theirs as well. "He helped us escape from the truck at the bridge." "I'm his partner, Elena. We're hunters working this contract commissioned by Midland. Case number 1243. So, where exactly is he?" One of the women walks through the wall of men and points over the tinker's head at the opposite building. "One of those things took Annabelle, and your partner went after them. We haven't heard from them." "How long ago was that?" "We're not sure." The young hunter turns inward into calculating thought. She goes back into the van and pulls out the keyboard to the center console. She reaches into her jacket pocket to retrieve an old wind-up watch. A small crack spiders down the middle of it. She looks at the time. The hands display 10:15. The tinker slips the timepiece back into the pocket and looks at the monitor in the center console. She begins typing on the keyboard, pulling up several command line windows on the screen. She yells back to Poppy, "Still don't have a location of him?" The robot emits 2 boops, which are apparently negative. "Send me a plot of all the last transmissions in the past hour." Poppy salutes the captain. Several minutes pass by before the automaton transfers the data to Elena's screen. She pulls up a digital grid map and plots each of the data points into the application. Little white dots display on the screen. The female hunter stops and stares at Rod's trail. She's trying to guess his location, hoping that something on the screen will jump out at her. A small hand comes into view, reaching for a button on the console monitor. She smacks it. The little hand retracts, breaking Elena away from contemplation. She snaps her head over to the little girl sitting in the passenger seat. Elena was too occupied with the coordinates to notice the little girl sneak in through the passenger side door. The little girl's eyes are welling up as she rubs the red mark. The girl's pouting, with her bottom lip quivering. "Don't touch my stuff, do you hear me?" The little girl drops her head and sulks. Her red, curly hair drapes over her freckled face. "I'm sorry." The little apology squeaks ever so gently out of the girl's mouth, softening Elena's heart. The hunter puts her hand on the frail girl's shoulder to comfort her. She can feel the bone through her paper-thin skin. The girl looks like she hasn't eaten anything substantial in a month. Elena digs in her left hip pocket and pulls out a small ball of wax paper. "Here, take this." The little girl looks up, the trail of tears visible from the dirt smeared across her face. She looks at the little wax ball, bewildered. The white paper displays a little drawing of Poppy, with the words "Poppy Pop" written on it. Elena unravels the paper and pinches the goodie that's inside and hands it to the curly-haired child. "Put it in your mouth and chew, but don't swallow. It will stick to your butt when you pass it. Trust me, I know." The little girl accepts the gift and cautiously puts it in her mouth, biting down on the hard candy. Her tongue absorbs the sweet honey from the inside. The little girl's eyes flare as she chews ravenously on the now chewy candy. "You like it?" The girl's head shakes excitingly, yes. Elena grabs a couple more pieces and hands it to her. "Give these to your friends." The girl's curls bounce as she nods again. Elena ushers her out of the van. Looking through the passenger mirror, she spies the other children acting very cautious when placing the gum in their mouths. Their faces changing from skepticism to delicious excitement is like the curly-haired girl. Elena smiles, then moves her eyes to the driver's side mirror. The adults are walking around, gawking at the van in their own thrilled trance. The young hunter looks back at the screen. The quick reprieve did her some good. She scans the dots again, whispering aloud to herself, "Where the hell are you?" Taking the glasses off, Elena rubs her eyes and the bridge of the nose, leaning back in the chair with a deep sigh. She notices one of the men standing by the driver's side window. She puts her glasses back on and looks at him. His face is covered in dried blood and grime. The light brown hair is parted down the middle. He looks at her, his lips trembling, trying to spit out the right words. "Thank you, ma'am, for everything you and your partner done for us. The depot was destroyed, and I watched everyone else get executed before we were hauled off. I pretty much accepted that me, my wife, and baby girl were going to hell on earth. I watched the men take turns on the other women. I tried to fight, but they blew the brains out of the last man that struggled. His name was Job." Elena looks at the man, giving him an ample amount of time to speak what was on his mind. I just wanted to say thank you again." He looks at her one last time and heads back over to the group. Elena jumps out of the van and walks over to the group. The women are sitting on the ground with their legs crossed, whispering soothing words to one another as the men sit quietly in their own meditations. She walks over to the back hatch and taps on it. Within seconds, the back door swings open. Elena tells them they are welcome to rest inside. The people thank her profusely and, one by one, enter. "Don't touch the bike," she tells the children sternly. Turning back, Elena walks down the ancient road, kicking any loose pieces of asphalt in her path. Stopping at the intersection, she looks down all 3 streets. The light from the moon shines a spotlight down on her and the juncture. She takes a moment staring down each street. All 3 look identical. The erosion runs across the buildings like wrinkles on an old man's face. Her thoughts switch to her grandfather. She tries to think what he would say to her right now. 3 choices that all look the same, but each with a different outcome. Gramps was a big proponent of frequency throughout the universe, energy ever moving and ever creating. Energy can never be destroyed, just altered, given the circumstance. He didn't like the fact Elena is so dependent on technology. The old grandfather spoke many nights about their ancestors and their dependence on technology. As they grew more advanced, the schism between their energy, or soul, and the universe widened. They were no longer in tune with this divine frequency. In turn, they lost their connection with the divine creator. The humans that now live on must find a way to reconnect and heal this metaphysical scar. Elena, for the most part, believed what her grandfather said. These demons roaming the world attest to it. This energy is so immoral, though, corrupting humans, ultimately destroying any facet of humanity that's left. At least she could control technology, bend it to her will. Gramps also discussed the frequency around them many times, how it can be used as a tool for good and evil as well. It is neutral energy that morphs, depending on the person's karma. He always called it a woman's intuition, a gut feeling, as it were. Men had the ability as well, but it came more naturally to women. Rod was one of the few men he knew that felt this energy as freely as women. Men tend to live in the physical plane, dealing with the things staring them in the face. Gramps would always say, "Men will always be boys at play. Women, however, are the catalyst between the physical and metaphysical. That ability to birth children, to be God for a brief moment, is the link of pulling energy from one existence into another." Elena never took too much stock in the feeling of the universe, this intuition. Tonight, however, she is willing to give it a shot. She stands before the 3 streets, eyes closed but mind open, slowing her breathing down, just listening to the world around her, separating each sound and storing it in short-term memory. One sound begins to soar above the others. Tap, 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 the sounds thump in her mind. Her gut starts to knot, and the direction of the tapping materializes deep in her mind's eye. Without realizing it, the hunter moves her body in the direction of the sound, as if it were a compass directing a lost traveler north. The internal rhythm fills her mind like 1,000 drums playing in unison. She grips the thought for as long as she can. When it becomes too much to bear, the young hunter opens her eyes and the drums cease. Elena blinks several times for the object in front of her to take shape, gazing up now at the looming entity in view. Wondering not why she is looking at it, but why she didn't notice it until now. Her gut is still rolling as she stares at its dark silhouette, the tower leaning ever so slightly, with the dim light illuminating within the higher floors. She knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that Rod is in that building. Pulling a small necklace from underneath her jacket, Elena opens the locket. It is empty inside except for the memory of her grandfather. She sees him every time she opens it, the last gift that he ever gave her. The light from the moon cast its spotlight on the young girl as Elena kisses the locket and thanks her grandfather for his help. She nestles it back in her jacket and heads back to the van. The feeling of hopelessness evaporates as she marches to the vehicle with ignited determination. She jumps into the driver's seat, then slams the door shut. Elena starts the engine, throwing the gear into reverse. Time to go hunting